my goodness.
Good evening, all you Bebiconics fans out there tuning in to the Just Three Gents podcast. Here with me, JVL, your bringer of doom for AEW. Our wonderful Jefe Mikey, here to keep me sane and on track. And we do not have our professor tonight, unfortunately. He is in dress rehearsal or opened of show at this point, so hopefully this means in the next couple weeks we may have the third gent back with us as we go. But Mikey, welcome to the podcast this evening. Glad to have you here.
I am happy to be here. I wasn't supposed to be, but I am glad I can be here.
I don't want to do this alone is basically what it came down to, because everyone has abandoned me for theater, and I'm supposed to do that. Mikey and I watched AEW Dynamite, and we are going to share with you kind of our review, recap what's going on with that, give you our thoughts on that as well. But we would love to hear from you as well. So if you are subscribed to us or following us on all of the socials at BC WrestlePod, drop us a comment, like the stuff we're talking about. Just like, subscribe, get those alert bells for when things come out. We need to engage with you because we love sharing this with you. Mikey, we're going 2 weeks in a row now to set this up again as a kind of MJF-heavy show, but not. And we again get MJF starting the night off with a promo backstage, and he gets a pre-planned Zoom call that seemed to be wasn't pre-planned. And we get the big Adam Cole face up on the screen as we talk about the fact that Adam's worried about Max.
Adam Cole is being the bestie that he is. He's worried about MJF and about the devil running around and the shenanigans that he or she or they, whoever's behind the mask and the posse.
And can I ask you this right off the bat, Mikey? Do you think AEW knows who's behind the devil mask, or are they waiting to see what pieces fall in place from the latest free agent signings to put that person into this thing like they did with Ric Flair as the Black Scorpion?
I think they absolutely do not know who's going to behind the mask.
So they're waiting for Ospreay to see if he jumps in there, and it becomes Will Ospreay at that point.
Selfishly, I want him to go to Impact more than
He's
anything.
not going to Impact.
I know.
I honestly believe if the plug-in like substitution, if they don't get who they wanted, it's got to be Roddy Strong. Although people are now saying it might be Samoa Joe. I don't think it's Joe. Joe wouldn't let himself be doing this. It's got to be Roddy.
Honestly, I would prefer it to be Roddy, but I don't even know if AEW is going to run with it because they're not sure what they want to do.
In this promo as well, I missed out the middle specifically for this because we're transitioning to the next match. Daniel Garcia and 2.0 show up because Max is accepting his challenge tonight, but he wants to get the professional wrestler, Daniel Garcia, not the sports entertainer, and Daniel agrees. So we head down to the ring, and we get our match between MJF and Daniel Garcia for his BBB, Triple B, even though he doesn't have it. And Mikey, I honestly loved how they scripted this match.
This is the Daniel Garcia that I knew was still in there despite all the shenanigans that he's been dealing with for the last couple of months. This is the Daniel Garcia that had battles with Wheeler Yuta. This is the Daniel Garcia that fought Katsuyori Shibata. This is the Daniel Garcia that initially when he came to AEW, just great wrestling. It made me happy to see him finally come back.
But I also love that he kept the bits in there fighting himself to get back to the sports entertainment, which cost him the match in the end of that. I will also say the dragon submission that he does is the only pretty and really well done sharpshooter clone that I have seen. The Scorpion Deathlock, Claudio Sharpshooter, they're all terrible. And not just terrible because they don't look like they hurt. If you've ever heard Bret Hart talk about how you do the sharpshooter, how you put it on, everyone puts it on incorrectly and they don't crank on it. Bret, like, it's the way you cross the legs. With Bret, sometimes it's grabbing the knee pad and wrenching it up. With Garcia, it's getting under both arms and really bending that back like a crab. So really well done there. And then the dancing on his back, like, it just was so good. I really enjoyed this match for what it was. I was sad, but also understood why 2.0 had to stop him from shaking MJF's hand too, because they can't allow that.
I was mad at them. I was like, let Daniel Garcia shake his hand, bro. Let it shake the hand.
Pretty darn good way to start the show off. I thought, like, it's going in, it got things excited, and MJF is over as hell. Like, we all know that. He's their scumbag. It's great. We then get a video promo about Jay Briscoe versus Jay White later on this evening, and for his chance to take on MJF, basically taking his title shot. I mean, we needed this to set up Briscoe because he's been off TV for a while and people need to get that on there, but this whole match seemed like it came down of nowhere. Like there was no build to him taking on Jay White. So why would we have that happen?
Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that Mark Briscoe is back.
Yeah.
But
and seeing him wrestle it's a good pop. It's a good heartfelt story. But why do we have him in the title picture here?
To put Mark in this main event to see who would be fighting MJF at Full Gear, I was like, it's a foregone conclusion that Jay is still going to be fighting because that's your moneymaker match. Don't get me wrong, Mark Briscoe is great. We're talking about Jay White here. Oh, baby, you're not going to win, but it's going to be fun.
We then moved on to our next match after this, just like quick bang, bang. We had a lot of squashes tonight, and this was one that I was both happy and excited to see because I enjoy the tag team they brought up from ROH, but also sad that it had to be a squash, but it's always going to be with them. No, that's not Sting taking on the 1980s tag team of the Hollywood Blondes. This is the throwback team, the Outrunners, who... comedy wrestling gold at their best, and like you got vintage Sting in this match doing his old surfer moves and everything else the best he could. Darby Allin didn't have to do that much, which is good for him still healing up and taking all that on, and it was kind of schmaltzy fun. I just was sad they wasted another ROH debut in a way like this in a squash.
Outrunners continue to prove that comedy wrestling is not dead. I'd love to see it. I love the fact that Sting was mostly the one doing offense for him and Darby because, again, you want to keep Darby as fresh as possible because Lord knows next week is about to be a bloodbath.
It's about time where 80s nostalgia needs to knock back in there. I'm really up for it now. It's been far enough along. It's going to run its course at some point, but give me more of this. Like, I want to see more of the Outrunners against anybody, really. It'd be so much fun. And they're going to lose every time, which is the best. So we go to a promo that I was excited for in the theme and kind of the production of it, but it didn't seem to really get any heat for the match, and it wasn't because of the people involved. Like, there was something off about the Tony Storm Hikaru Shida sit down with Tony Schiavone. I will say, Tony Storm mispronouncing everybody's name
was so good. It was so good. So good. I know Schiavone. I know Tony Schiavone is the one that usually does these kind of sit-down contract signings. But if I'm going to be completely honest, even though she is a backstage correspondent, I would have actually preferred Renee in this event.
Or Lexi.
Yeah, one of those two. Is just like, let's get it all women's involved in this segment.
Do you know who I was actually missing in this that has been part of everything else? Where's RJ City? Why couldn't he do it?
Oh my gosh, RJ City is also another one. He's been interviewing Tony Storm in like the docu-series that they had.
He was in one of the films.
He was in two of her silent movies. Like, Tony, I think was the sore thumb because Tony and Hikaru, I think, were great. I loved it.
And they have great chemistry, and Hikaru did the best. Like, you can tell she does act. She has a lot of things in it. She's not in her native language, so it's getting that across in a second language. She did really well on that. Luther looming in the background, also really good. It was a good promo. It could have been better. So, Mikey, do you like really talented wrestlers kicking the living crap out of each other for our entertainment and doing things that physically they shouldn't be able to do?
Absolutely.
Then you will love this next match. I'm telling you right now, because this is my match of the night.
Oh, hands down. There's no contest. Swerve Strickland versus Penta El Cielo Miedo. This match.
With two of the, like, the polar opposite ends of the manager spectrum with them too, because you've got Nana, who's like out here super thing like, everything else, and you've got Alex Abrahantes, who he really doesn't do much. He's kind of just there. So
he is the ultimate hype man. He be yelling everything and at everyone. I dig it.
These two took to each other amazingly well, and I'm not surprised. Even commentary was saying how Swerve has adapted his style to everybody he's gone up against, and this was no different. But we forget that Penta's also a bit of a heavyweight, so like it's large strikes, big blows. The diving Canadian destroyer on the apron. How is Swerve's neck not destroyed?
Swerve just continues to prove why he is that dude. Like, so far, I don't know, man. Swerve has been killing it this last second half of the year, and honestly, his promo against Hangman when they first started their program still rings true to being like, Tony Khan, pull the trigger. Let's get our first black AEW world champion. Let's do it.
Basically, by the end of this, we had another like there was like 3 submission finishes in a row. It was crazy and really well done. But then Hangman appears after the match to beat up Swerve. This is how it should have ended in that third 3-man match. He shouldn't have chased him off. This has been coming and should have happened a week ago for that retribution of being in his house.
This was the first time in quite some time where the moniker of Hangman's Camboy-ish actually showed up. I was like, this is the Hangman that I want to see, the one that wanted to break Kenny Omega's neck when they were feuding. Now, it's personal for Hangman now because Swerve broke into his house, and, you know, the imagery of him talking to his newborn in the crib still haunts my dreams.
Plus the suffocation hazard of throwing a big t-shirt in there over the kid's face. Like, come on. This next promo was a massacre of the art form. It was terrible. This was Chris and Kenny talking to Renee backstage, and the Bucks interrupt them because they make a good point about the fact, like, you know, the name is weird and how things are strange between them, and like, you know, like, and then but this is the 18th Elite breakup angle again. Like, I don't need to see this storyline anymore.
I don't understand how we went into this from Jay White's promo before this. It's like night and day.
And the same thing. Jay White's promo was kind of boilerplate, but compared to this,
Lord have mercy,
it was Shakespeare.
Chris Jericho, I told you, we're in this black void of Chris Jericho. Anytime any talent gets near him for some reason, it never ends up being a good storyline. We do not use the people correctly. And It always ends up like, it doesn't matter how many times Jericho gets like the defeats and the losses, he ends up coming out on top when it matters. And this is what I'm afraid of, because in this promo, we got the extra stakes for Full Gear. And I swear, if Chris and Kenny win at Full Gear and they get this tag team championship match, I actually might gouge my eyes out.
I can't give AEW story writers enough credit right now, because it seems like they're still dropping balls on things, and things are starting to fall apart, because it's really turning into, apparently from the backstage reports, WWE in the early 2000s. Like, it's really getting bad.
I hate the stipulation for this match, because it's a lose-lose for me as the fan, because if the Bucks win, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of rooting for the Bucks, because then the Golden Jets have to disband. I'm like, please get Kenny Omega away from Chris.
What also bothers the living hell out of me, which also is a lose-lose situation, is the next match. The match itself, I will preface this, was wonderful. So much meat, so many meat chants, you know, meat forever. Gotta love it. And it's 2 performers that I'm like, you remembered how Keith Lee can move and do things. You remembered Samoa Joe is a crafty whatever. And the 2 of them together make magic. But the end and the after match was just, what?
JBL, you can go first, because probably have more poignant feelings than I do, but
I will get to the feelings in a second. The work between them was great. The coquina clutch off of, like, working Keith Lee's knee was an amazing storyline to tell. The 2 of them were so damn agile, and Joe at his age, I'm also surprised is that agile. And you got pretty much the greatest hits of these 2 from ROH and PWG, which was amazing. So go watch the match. Don't watch the aftermatch. Basically, Joe gets on the microphone, drops the belt that he's the ROH TV title in the ring, again, ROH title being defended on AEW TV, and says, I'm vacating this because I'm hungry for something more, and this isn't enough. And then says he's going to take on MJF for the title, which makes sense. And you want Joe to be going for bigger titles. I can understand that, but not at the detriment of your mid-card title for your other promotion who you're bringing on this TV show, which is ostensibly supposed to be an advertisement to watch Honor Club. How do you book it this way? Like, I can see in my mind, this sounds like a Vince McMahon, it's a moment, you gotta make a moment type of thing. This isn't a moment. This is a wet fart. Literally, I'll give you, here, I'll jump in your booker shoes, you don't even pay me. 3 ways you could probably get this out. Not even that. First, don't book the match. Don't book the match. It's backed into a corner. If you want him to vacate it, just have him vacated. He's past the damn title thing. Don't book the friggin' match. 2, have whoever you want to take this off of him now, because there's going to be a bunch of people trying to vie for this title that it's going to basically draw them down because of how badly they put this title. Have them interfere. Have them get a disqualification match to make Joe lose without losing the title. Then you can build whatever else it is to him not being able to get around. There's an injury angle that he has to get through. Who knows? 3rd, have Stokely strip him of the title. He's been off ROH TV for a couple months now. You can have your authority figures strip the title off him because he doesn't defend it on ROH TV. And this is the ROH TV title. That doesn't hurt Joe. It turns Joe against Stokely so he can come back down every once in a while, have a match or something like based around that, because we know the whole bullying thing with that. Why would you put on this amazing match for the title and not switch it to Keith Lee or do something better with it? You do not care about ROH enough, and I think you need to get rid of it off your portfolio because you're not taking enough time, and it's killing the brand.
Okay. All right, tag me in, coach. Tag me in, bam, tag.
More.
All right, I have a hot tag now. My biggest issue is all of that combined, but again, it goes back to, championships in professional wrestling always have some sort of history. Whether it's a brand new company, whether it's an old running company, there are histories between championships and the people who have held them. Professional wrestling, a lot of it is athleticism and drama. Like, we know this.
Yeah.
But for us wrestling fans, the history behind what made these titles matter and what made these titles great are important to us. The Ring of Honor Television World Championship has been held by some of the top Ring of Honor talent in the world, from the likes of like Rhett Titus and,
Dalton Castle.
Like, these are people who have had such major careers in Ring of Honor and have all gone on to do awesome things in the independent scene, or now that we're in this iteration of Ring of Honor, they want to come back because this is their home. To me, and I do not blame Joe in this one because Joe is just doing his job. I blame the people behind the scenes, booking the storyline, writing the storyline, all this. You have Athena being the only champion who is day in, day out, putting that title on the line, having proving ground matches. Like, that is the title that matters right now. I love Shibata, but he's not there. Kingston's about to be there for this week's episode because him and Angelico are going to have their title match, so at least there's that. The tag titles are being held hostage by MJF, and Mogul Embassy has just reclaimed the sixth man, but we still have not seen them since they won them, so they're still missing. But this moment in particular right here made me upset because having Joe hold that title for almost 2.5 years, only for you to decide, oh, let's have him vacated. That is the stupidest move that a booker can do. I'm not a professional wrestling booker, and I could write this better. There are two people in my mind you could have had some sort of, interaction with based on what we have seen on Ring of Honor. A, you have Shane Taylor come in some capacity because he has history with Joe. He has history with Keith. You could have him cost Joe the title or something, and then we get Keith versus Shane for a little bit, and then go from there. The second person that we could have, because apparently we forgot the storyline existed after Death Before Dishonor, you have Dalton Castle come in and either do something to finagle his way into the match, or again, cost Joe or something. And to me, as a Ring of Honor fan, this was the most disrespectful thing you could have done to the history of that Ring of Honor Television Championship. And to me, this just sullied Samoa Joe's title reign because he barely defended that thing the whole entire time he had it in Ring of Honor Television. Tony Khan, you need to figure out either you want to run Ring of Honor or you need to let go and trust Stokely, Jerry Lynn, and Maria Kanellis to book the way that they're going to, because those three together have shown us that they can book very, really well-written storylines. Stop oversaturating it and disrespecting the history of the Ring of Honor titles. Stop it.
This has been what everyone's been talking about. It hurt all of us because of how poorly it was thought through. Whatever writer decided to pitch this and was agreed to needs to be fired, and the people that approved it need to be reprimanded, because this was not the way to deal with any of this. It drew no heat, and commentary had to try to sell it, and you could tell in their hearts that it wasn't in it. So
I'm not even mad at the situation, and what makes it worse is that I'd rather be mad, but instead of what I'm currently feeling, which is disappointed. And to me, as a wrestling fan, being disappointed hurts more than being mad.
We get off of this, we transfer over to Orange Cassidy backstage, following up on storyline thing. What's his motivation for wanting to take on Mox? It's because he couldn't beat him. He feels it's incomplete. He's intense about it. An intense Orange Cassidy, which was well delivered, well done with Hook there. That's the storyline you hold on to, whereas you can't do it with the ROH title. It's like, you see the priorities laid out for you. It's ridiculous.
And at the end of this year, Orange Cassidy needs to get his flowers, man, because in 2023, Orange Cassidy made the International Championship the championship to hold in that company.
And then it wasn't through 3 other people, and now he's had to come back and take it back because he's got to rehab it again. It's like, I understand injuries were part of this thing and it wasn't supposed to go the way it's supposed to go. I'm hoping if Mox beats him, they can then restart the story they were gonna do. But it's just like, you did so much good work and goodwill. Don't ruin this. Just like we ruined the next thing, because the next thing was just another promo. It was a squash match for the Guns to have a promo.
The disrespect to the Bollywood boys.
And the ROH tag titles. It's just, the Bollywood boys, I love the dance, by the way. But it was a 1-move squash. They did the 310 to Yuma and beat them. Was this needed? Could it have not just been a promo? I've noticed this in Dynamite so far. This is like that lull at like the top of the hour where they've got to get 4 promos in, as if they have to, like, they're a non-profit radio station that has to put the PSAs at least 2 in an hour to be able to get their funding. Like, because we had the Mox promo after this. Mox responding to Orange Cassidy, which, glad they're not in the same room. Love the intensity on this one. I thought it filled in better. Yuta tried.
Sir, Moxley, come get your child is what I was saying. I was like, come get your kid.
Mox was there like, I'm going to let my son say the thing he's practiced. He's been doing really well. Let's see if he gets to well, you did that. I'm gonna finish this off for you and like keep the heat we're going here. Come on, young boy Hook. You know, like, I love that they're kind of making that about it, which is kind of fun.
Man, I'm not going to lie. Wheeler versus Hook actually kind of has me intrigued. It's going to be fun, but do I think it's going to be anything special? Not really.
I get it. Wardlow's a monster. I get it. Wardlow's back. I was never a fan of his to start with, and I don't care. He's done nothing to make me care.
I think the issue is again, you have way too many people involved with MJF right now because he's currently fighting Jay. Samoa Joe is waiting in the corner. You have the person behind the devil mask. You have Wardlow about to rip his head off. Like, there are too many people wanting to fight MJF, and I have the sneaking suspicion that at World's End, oh my gosh, I don't even want to put it in existence, but it's going to be some sort of fatal 5-way or fatal 4-way. I'm like, no.
Watch it be a battle royal.
No, not this. Lord
5-way ladder match.
Well, actually, no. I'm kind of here for it because I have a propensity for violence. But
you know who also has a propensity for violence, Mikey? One of our favorite performers who was up next. Julia Hart took on Red Velvet, who hadn't been on our TV screens for quite a while.
This was actually a fun match.
It was. It wasn't a squash. It was fun to watch. Julia has improved so much in so many things. And I wrote this down. She has studied at the knee of what good storytelling in the ring is. Whether she achieves the moves as crisply or as cleanly as others doesn't really matter. She has that persona and that drive and that pointed focus, which makes the match fun to watch.
I've loved her journey that we have seen so far. And honestly, I also want to give flowers to Red Velvet because she's been gone from injury. And, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of hers, you know, because she was mostly just cannon fodder for Jade. But honestly, I've missed her, and I'm glad that she and Julia had a really fun match. But I want to talk about what happened at the end, though, because...
Can I talk about something first before we get to that? This is another place where commentary drove me freaking nuts.
Oh, my...
Did was focus on the fact that Red Velvet's knee brace kept slipping down, and they were describing why that would and everything else. Pay attention to the match and the work being done. No one cares. We got it, and we saw it. And I'm sorry her knee brace kept coming off, but we don't need you to spend 5 minutes straight talking about it.
You did this last week in another women's match, and
you don't care.
Listen, Tony, you're probably not listening to this, but if somehow this video finds you, if you want to get some people to care, you literally have Ian and Caprice, even though they're Ring of Honor boys, let them commentate the women's matches because, oh my gosh, they are the best commentary team, period. But they are also the best commentary team when they are talking about women's matches.
Talk about the ending, Mikey. Talk about the ending.
See, and this ending makes me upset in the sense that because there is gold, there is diamonds. This is juicy storytelling waiting to happen. And if it actually happens at Full Gear, I think I might actually videotape myself crying because Julia wins the match. And as she should, because, we're still trying to build her up as this god level tier of a force. And,
the Red Velvet in her submission again.
She is the matriarch of the House of Black. But then Sky Blue comes out. And I'm like, Sky, do we have the mist in our mouth, but we haven't spit it out yet? Like, girl, like the lips were not lipping for me. But
she was in all black too. She looked like she basically Julia's twin.
But man, that stare down was beautiful. And then Willow and Chris come out and all four of them stare at each other. And I'm like, if we don't get a fatal 4-way match for this TBS championship, either at Full Gear or at some point, not even fighting, not even nothing, Julia just kind of smirks and she leaves. I was like, God, there is so much potential for the storytelling here. Don't mess this up.
They're going to mess it up and it's going to make us all sad. And we'll complain about it here on the Just Three Gents Bebiconic AEW review.
Speaking of complaining about how they're treating women, man, this next segment made me so mad.
And I was so happy because RJ City got to do something, and I don't know Mariah May well enough to be able to make an opinion on this. So all we got from this was that she's here. She's basically the Mickey James type stalker fan thing and following Tony Storm around. That's what we got from this complete thing. And you're not on board with this.
I'm not. So I don't claim to know everything about Mariah May either. But I try to keep up with Stardom as much as I can between all the other stuff we cover here. And honestly, I may or may not want to be keeping up with Stardom more because right now some of these programmings might not help. But Mariah May made it really big in Stardom because obviously if you wrestling fans who are watching this review don't know what Stardom is what is known as a Joshi wrestling promotion. And Joshi wrestling means that it is women's wrestling exclusively in Japan, where the majority of the talent are Japanese born and bred. Now, Stardom over the last 10 years or so have made waves in women's wrestling because they have opened up their doors to international stars. So
to stars,
so Mariah May, Blair Davenport,
Mercedes Moné.
Mariah May made it really big in Stardom as one of the few non-Japanese wrestlers to hold some of the titles that Stardom has. And she is so good in the ring. She is a quick high flyer. So the speed belt was mostly what she held. And oh my gosh, her matches were awesome. And it makes me sad that this is the character choice that AEW has decided to give her.
I'm worried that they're going to rehash a better storyline and do the same things they're doing with the Athena Billy Stark storyline with these two. And it's not going to be as good. However, I will give it a little thing. As I said to Mikey before, unlike the Mickey James storyline with Trish Stratus, you have Mariah May saying she's been a fan of Tony, the performer, like the actress. So hopefully this bends its way around this magical place that Tony Storm's in and seems to work. I have to be optimistic in that respect, but you're right. This is well trodden ground, and there are a lot of pitfalls they could fall into. Our final match of the night, our main event, Mark Briscoe, rest in peace, Jay, versus Jay White for Jay White's ability to take on Max for the Bang Bang belt.
Yep. The winner goes to face MJF at Full Gear. And I was like, honey, I love you, Mark, but...
You ready for my entire review of this match? The Bang Bang Gang casts distraction, beats the crap out of Mark Briscoe, but he no-sells it and still loses. There it is. It's what we knew would happen. It was a little more competitive than I thought it would be, and the straitjacket suplex into the Blade Runner was a great combination.
Ooh.
This did not need to be the main event. This should have been a mid-card match, right in the middle of the night. Maybe second match off that. Switch the main event and the opening match of the night, and you would have been fine.
Honestly, I would have liked that too. But of course, they got to always now start with MJF in some capacity to start the show half the time.
I think they're setting that as like a Pavlovian response to know that he's going to be on the beginning of 0 Hour for Full Gear and then at the end of the night. So we're getting used to that fact. But he appeared again here after Jay White beat Mark Briscoe. MJF cut a promo on Jay White, telling him that it's all on, and it's the same promo he's cut a couple times, but he's ready to take him on.
The lights go out, and the Acclaim is the next victim in the Devil's attack. This one actually hurt me more because I was just like, after MJF said some nice things about Max Caster during the celebration last week. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually feel things now. I was like, what is this?
Well, and poor Anthony Bowen got Marty Jannetty right through that window.
Bro! No, that's why Tony Khan needs to hire me. Hi. I'm just saying. Hire us.
So, Mikey, in order to get that job with AEW, to showcase that you know what you're talking about, I need your full review of this show. What did you think?
So, overall, on a scale of 10, I'm going to give this week's Dynamite a 6.5. And here, I want to list the pros and cons really quickly. The pros, there was only 2 things that I really enjoyed. Well, actually, 3. The opening match between MJF and Daniel Garcia was phenomenal. I really loved this. Even though it didn't have the oomph that I wanted, Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida's Black and White Timeless segment was a lot of fun. And Tony Storm is killing it with this gimmick. And obviously, my match of the night, Swerve versus Penta, and the Hangman, butt kicking afterwards. But the cons were very, very bad. The bad stuff.
Tony Khan is very, very bad.
The bad stuff was bad. This Golden Jets Young Bucks storyline, I don't like it. I hate it. I'm afraid that Chris is going to win another title opportunity. And, that just makes me really, really sad. But the Samoa Joe vacating the television championship, docked the most points for me because as a Ring of Honor fan, I felt so disrespected. And even the disrespect for the history of how many great wrestlers have held that title and the prestige that Ring of Honor brings to their championships. Because Ring of Honor, to me, is the one company that truly believes in the history of championships, and it's more so the quality over the quantity of how long they hold these titles. The other positive is even though I don't trust the writing staff, this Fatal 4-Way for the TBS Championship, please book it. I want to see this. But
we
six and a half.
Awesome. I don't need to rehash all the points. We agreed on most of them at that point there, but mine, I rated it 4.5 out of 10. Because to begin with, it was kind of an average show overall, but then started to go down from the things that we talked about. So we're already under that halfway point, and then I always have to take one off because one women's match where you crammed all the stories into it, and you had a women's promo that was pretty darn good, but that's about it. The women at this point are so well put together because they've been given all this stuff. They can save this promotion. And they're not taking the steps to do that. They're still doing the same old matches, the same pairings, and then going for moments like Joe. Not worth my time overall. 3.5 out of 10. I can't. I'm done. I'm done with that part of it. It's really annoying that I have to watch the same thing over and over. I'm hoping we get through the end of the year and something changes, but unless there's a big thing with the TV deals, I don't see it happening. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for stepping up as one of the 3 gents and being here for me. Thank you to all of your insight. Thank you to your passion and your wonderful, wonderful way of thinking about things, and for slowly becoming more jaded as I've known you because of all the crap that's happening in the wrestling world.
I don't even think it's jaded. It's just that I want my wrestling promotions to do better and do right by all the performers, but specifically my women wrestlers. Listen, I have a very strong Latina mother, and she is my prime example, and she is a very strong woman. So I love my female wrestling because they prove time and time again they are better than the men. Not equal, better. And yes,
so watch out, Tony Khan. Watch out, Tony Khan. Mama L is coming for you.
Listen, shout out to Mama L because she supports us behind the scenes so much.
100%. But yes, to you all, thank you as well for sitting through this with us today, getting our perspective on it. Hopefully that you had another thought or more about this. We'd love for you to share that with us. Follow us at BC WrestlePod on all the different socials. Subscribe to the channel, get those notifications, and let us know you're there. Because remember, you're biconic. We definitely are biconic. We're original biconic. And we love sharing this weird and disappointing and so evocative art form with you. And we'll see you on the next video.